Yeah. Not yet. Nope. Perfect. Oh, not perfect. Not quite. not quite. Still sticking up. Perfect. There, that's what I wanted. I want the screw heads to be flush with the handle. Okay, I think these are done. I'll protect them with wax. Just a little bit. You don't need a lot. It's probably too much. Let's put some on this guy and then some over here. This is microcrystalline polish. There's a very fine grit that will both protect and polish materials such as metal, and this is resin, copper dust infused resin. And we'll get the sides done. And then when I ship this knife out to the customer, I put a little bit of this wax in a Ziploc so the customer can give it a polish when they want without having to send it back to me. And they'll send it back to me if they want it sharpened professionally. And if I get the knife back, I'll just polish the handles again. And if there's any dings or scratches, I can take them out with a gentle polish, just like this. I find that this material is beautiful and easy to work with, but It's a little softer than micarta, so what I did is I epoxied a very firm piece of G10. You can see the black beneath it, sort of like a tortoiseshell design. And that gets fastened to these are titanium, so this will not bend. So once everything's together, it is a solid, solid knife. So I'm just putting the finishing touches before I send it out to its new owner tomorrow. So what I have to do today is I'm polishing the handles. I finished the leather sheath yesterday. The leather sheath's all done, which takes a bit of time because I'm not the best leather craftsman. So what I'll do is I'll get the leather sheath together and then use the knife itself as a model to shape it properly, and then I'll do the final finishing touches like I do here, just in case I mess anything up or get leather dye on it. You see my fingers, this is all leather dye. The gloves I was using weren't the best for dyeing leather. Alright, so I think that's about done for these are called scales, handle scales. So they'll sit over here. And then here's the sheath I made yesterday. I wet formed it around a model, and then I used the knife to set the final shape. And then I weathered it. I stuck it in my pocket, walked around, and bent it after the dye dried. These screws are tiny. These are titanium screws. And on the inside, these are phosphor bronze washers that I polished. And some of this grit is just a bit of the oil. And I test out my knives for about a week before sending them out. So I'll clean up the blade and the pivot. Can't lose those. Here's another one here. This is a stainless steel stop pin. So when you put the knife open, it stomps on the tang right here and provides a lockup. And then this is called, well, these are liners. These are titanium liners. See? The blade sits in here and closes like that. And then when it's closed, the knife has a little hole there. I drill a little hole there. That hole fits perfectly. Well, I should say this little bump is a graphite, like a tiny, tiny marble or bead that I press fit in here. So when the knife is closed, it finds its home right in that hole and prevents it from opening. You can't shake it open because it's stopped by that little tiny bump. Called a liner lock folder. And that action's, it's called a detent because it holds the knife in place. And then when you open it, what happens is that so the knife is like this. It's closed. It opens up. this bar here acts like a little spring, and it meshes with the bottom of the blade so it's not going to close on you. That's how it locks up straight. And then when you want to close it, you just push that away and then turn it like that. So what I have left to do is, the knife is just about done. The whole package is going out tomorrow with a certificate of authenticity. And I'm just going to clean up the liners. I'm going to put the final edge. It's already pretty sharp, but I've been using it. So I'm going to put the final edge on the blade and then sign the COA, and then it's all done. If you can see it, this is this is a it's a Nichols Damascus. So you see the lines. And the shape of the blade is a Tonto, which you might see on some samurai swords. But it's of course very tiny. So we have basically a straight edge here with a very tiny belly, and then it comes up to a point here. So this is ultra sharp. This is made for a slicer. Spammer. All I'm doing here is giving the titanium just to clean up the aligners a little bit. Usually I'd use my belt grinder, but at this stage I just want to clean them up a little bit before sending it out. What's the use? This is a slicer, so put in your pocket. It's a small knife, so I guess they would be called a gentleman's carry knife. This is a traditional brand name, or the category name. So you can, open packages, open letters, use it for self-defense if you need to. It's small enough that it's legally, you can carry this in New York City, which I live near, so you won't get in trouble for holding something like this. And there's a locking detent, so it can't flip open like a butterfly knife or something like that. But, it's so small, this is really used for, slicing open packages, and, it's one of a kind, so I guess it's a collector's item. Yes, I made it from scratch. Everything that I make is from raw material. I do make my own steel, but this one is a special knife. So I actually bought, a piece of professionally made Damascus billet from a maker called Chad Nichols, and I'll buy professional steel, when I have a special knife to make. So it comes like this. This is Damascus steel, but I also have regular steel, and I also make my own, but that takes a bit of time. How much does this cost? I make these on request. This is not my full-time job. I hope it will be one day. This particular knife is $350. And the reason why is because of this piece of metal right here. Damascus is super expensive. If it were regular steel, like one of my regular steel billets, I'll show you like this. Like this one, if I made a knife with, this is 1095 steel, I'd take probably $100 off, so maybe $250 tops. And that can go either way. The handle materials is copper custom copper infused resin. Yeah. What do I think of Benchmade knives? Benchmade knives. That's how I got started. I collected Benchmade. Collected my real knife was a Benchmade about 10 years, 12 years ago, and then I got into the design shortly thereafter. Benchmade knives are awesome. I think they're made in Oregon still. Yeah, I don't think I have any Benchmades of my own, any own knives, but they're fantastic. I like Spyderco too. Spyderco, I like Spyderco's design aesthetic better than Benchmade, although they're both awesome. But Spyderco, some of their knives are made in China, some in the United States, some in Taiwan. And I found the Spyderco knives made in Taiwan are the best. There's a few models that they make out of that facility, and I think it's Taichung. Seek them out. Yeah, Spyderco is, I really went deep on collecting Spyderco. And then I bought a couple of custom knives, and I'm a handy person, and I wanted a hobby, and so I started making knives. I have an anvil. This is my forge right here where I heat the knife. And I have a professional belt grinder. And I've made about, 25, 26 knives for friends, some for sale. And it's been an awesome ride. Thanks for the award. Really appreciate it. I spend all my time on this thing. This thing sees, if I'm making a knife, it sees about 75 to 80% of my time is on the belt. And there's a table down there that you hook up. And then when you want to change your belt, you pull that down, rip that off, and you'll see my Christmas tree of belts up here, which I use for various stages of the knife where, if I'm taking off a lot of material, then I'm going to use something thick like this 36 grit belt. And then once I'm finishing a knife, I'll go up in grit, and it gets finer and finer until I use this. This is like Scotch-Brite, like a sponge on a belt. This is called metal conditioning. That gives me a nice kind of finished quality to it, and then I'll hand polish it myself with the buffing wheel. And what I'm doing now, which is I'm hand polishing this knife, and I want to get it out tomorrow. It's going to be a birthday present to my friend's wife out in California, and I'm going to send it out to him early so he can test it out and make sure it's good. And then if it is, great. If not, he can send it back, and I can adjust it. Do anything he wants. Yeah, that's good enough. Let me do the lock bar. That's about all I'll need to do on this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my sharpening rig out and show you how that works. Okay, so this is the Wicked Edge. I purchased this about maybe 6 months ago, and it puts a perfect angle edge on a blade, of any type of blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a mirror edge on right at the edge here of this blade. It's very small, but should be fine. So a couple of things I have to do is I need some painter's tape. And basically clamp that down. And then in this drawer here are all of my sanding plates. So what you do is for a new knife, without an edge, you start out with the lowest grit. This one starts out at 100. I'll put a very rough edge with my belt sander. Then I'll start going 100, which is red, and then you flip them around to 200. I'm going to start here at 600 and then work my way up to the ceramic, and then I'll strop it. And then we should be done with this guy. So what you do is you put the sanding plate here. Make sure the side you want is closest to the knife, of course, which is green. You take out the key, and then you basically lightly sharpen the edge. This is the secret to make a perfect and sharp edge for your knives. Man, that's sharp. Really sharp. Let's move over to the next set of plates. So now we did 600. We're going to go up to 800. Light blue. Can you show the sharp? Yeah, I can do that at the end. I still have some time left before getting it super sharp, but I can do it after this set of plates. These are dry stones. I have wet stones over on the other side of the forge, but I've been using these dry stones on the wicked edge for some time. All right, I'm not done with all the stones yet, but I'll give a paper test to try. I don't have any paper here, so I'll try this. Okay, it ripped towards the end. Still needs some more sharpening. Not bad. I don't know how high quality you can see this. So it could definitely be sharper, for sure. So let's do that. Let's make it super sharp. So I'm going to go up to 1,000 grit. So basically all you do is 800 on one side, 1,000 on the other, 1,000 on the other, and All right, let's get this super sharp. It's starting to get a little mirror, or just a little glint on the edge here, which is good. We want to see that. Yeah, that's the wicked edge. Yep. Thank you. I'll be careful. I just cut something about 2 minutes ago. We'll do it again at the end. And then we'll put everything together. These are the other parts. If you're just joining me, I've been finishing up parts of the knife. Those are the copper, that's called copper dust infused resin. And those liners are titanium. And I made that leather slip last night. So when everything goes together, I'll show you how everything, fits up and folds and all that kind of stuff. It's going to take me a while. I just threw on the camera because this is going out to the customer tomorrow. And my other videos, I've shown you, how I start from scratch with a piece of steel or Damascus. I think I've shown you guys how I forge with my furnace and my anvil. So this is the first video I've done where I actually show what a finished product looks like. And yeah, just throw on the camera, see what you guys think. So that's about it for the 1,000 grit stones. I'm going to move up to the ceramic stones next, and we'll get a really nice, close to mirror edge, So if you're just joining me, I didn't start from the low grit here. See, they start at 100 grit and then you flip them over to get the next one up. I started on 600 today because I already sharpened this guy. So now I did 800 and 1,000. Now I'm going to go up to 1,200 and then finally 1,600. These are ceramic, so we should get a really good edge at this point. Yeah, I should move this. This doesn't belong here. Yeah, the wicked edge is super expensive, I only got it because I'm a semi-professional knife maker, amateur maybe, and I make a lot of knives. And I usually use my belt grinder to do my edge. And I was like, you know what? I sold a bunch of knives and I invested back in my shop. So that's why I bought the wicked edge, and I could not be happier. I tried others before, and they're also great ones. But this thing I just found this to be really intuitive. It has a cam lock, so it keeps the knife super firm. There's no movement at all, which of course you want. I love the angle protection. And then, yeah, here we go. So let's go to 1,200. And then once I'm done, I'll do another paper test. So you can kind of see the cut. Yeah, it's already getting kind of like a mirror edge, if you can see it. So let's do this. I used to use whetstones. Actually, I have a whole bunch of whetstones, and I kind of like it. My hands aren't as steady as you know, some of the guys who do it really well on YouTube and whatnot. So I kind of moved along from whetstones, and I used the Wicked Edge, and then I used some polish on my oh yeah, that feels nice. And when you sharpen this stuff, you know, you go by feel. You can feel the stone connect to the edge, and it's super smooth. Like, whew, thanks for the award. And you can hear too, like if there's any grit, you know, if there's any grit on your stone or any grit maybe from the other side, you can feel it broadcast in your hand when you're sharpening, and then you'll know if you need to, you know, maybe clean it off or what have you. I'm not the best sharpener, as you can see, but I can sharpen a knife. All right, let's go to the other side here. We're still on 1200. And we want to be, there's a little, it's a microscopic burr that builds up when you sharpen on one side. It basically, tiny little hairs stick up that you could maybe barely feel it. But basically I can feel the burr on this side. And then what happens is that you want to start by going up and getting rid of that burr first, you know? Because if you don't and you go back down, you can scratch the beautiful finish on the Damascus here. I've already acid etched this, and I don't want to do it again. So I just want to be very careful. That's why I'm going a little slower than normal. You know? The Work Sharp is phenomenal. I love the Work Sharp. Outstanding. And to be honest, what I really want to do is I wanted to buy something like this that is idiot-proof for me, because I'm starting to make a lot of knives. And I write down the angle that I use for each blade and the position of the knife itself in the cam lock. Really for my son to help out eventually. My son's 15 and he's in high school. And I haven't forced him to come down to my forge, but he's interested. And I would put him on sharpening. That'd probably be the first thing I do. And then teach him how to use the belt grinder a little bit later. What do I start with when I make a knife? I did a brief tour of my materials. I can do it again if you like. But everything I build is from scratch. No, it starts, I'll show you right now, why not? So this is my forge. I light it outside. It's a propane forge, it's a single burner here, okay? This is a billet of 1095 steel. So I'll buy this from a professional steel maker in the right, type of steel and alloy that I want. This is carbon steel, which has a pretty good, it's easy to work with. It's easy to work on the anvil when I make my angles. And it's easy to keep sharp. So anyone can basically, basically I will buy this straight off and then I use my anvil. This is a Peter Wright from 1860. So I have a bunch of handmade, I have a bunch of friends who are really, really good blade makers, and one of them made me a handful of tools here. Like this is a handmade, here in Connecticut. This is a handmade tool. I also have some Hardy tools. So Hardy tools are used to do special forging. So you can use this to bend metal. You can use this to do a hot cut, but I don't really do a lot of, I just use it for basically shaping the first knife itself. And then once I get the knife pretty much done, this is a belt grinder. This is an Ameribraid belt grinder. Oh, powder, right. Someone asked about powder. Hell yes. I have a crucible. I make some, this is a new one. I haven't used this one yet, but I do make some crucible Damascus. Thank you. And what I'll do is I will take some of my old projects. I have old projects down there that it didn't really work. And then this is a fine mesh with a nickel concentrate. So I mix it with the 1095, and then you can make some pretty awesome designs with it. This is from USA Knife Maker. So yes, hell yes. I think they call it Wootz steel or crucible steel, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. It takes a lot of time, but when I do, I have enough of material to make a bunch of knives, you know. And also, when I make my folding knives, I use titanium. This is titanium. Comes like this. And I cut this out with my, whatchamacallit, my porta bandsaw. And that's how I make these. So this came from this. Yeah, Wicked Edge. That's what I use. And this is my porta bandsaw. Cut all my material on this guy. And this is the belt grinder. And I have a whole bunch of stuff with the belt grinder. This is the plate here. So basically you pop it in like that. Well, you gotta put a belt in first, right? Yeah, I have a website, definitely, where I sell my stuff. If you send me a PM, I'll send you my address. I just don't like to mix commercialism with my craft. So I just want to concentrate on finishing this blade. So this is a 2x72 belt. Ceramic. This one lasts a really long time, 80 grit. So I'll use this when I'm doing a hard shape. You know, when I take off a lot of material. You pop that on. You tighten that up. Get it close to the edge here. And then you undo this. And now it's tight. Okay. So if you turn that on, watch what happens with titanium real quick. That's basically it. You trim it. It's loud as hell. I usually put earpieces on. Well, that's the belt sander. I spent all my time on that guy. All right, I have to finish this. It's getting late, so I'm gonna finish sharpening this guy. We'll do a test, and I'll put it together. No, I'm not British. I'm from Connecticut. And by the way, I moved on to the 1600 grit ceramic stone. This is the final one I have, and then we'll strop. there are many ways and order of operations for sharpening a knife. This is what works for me. I'm an amateur, semi-pro. I make knives for sale, for friends and family, for gifts and whatnot. And it works. Haven't had a complaint. People like the knives I make for them. They're sharp, they stay sharp, easy to keep sharp and maintain. And then anyone who buys a knife from me, it's lifetime sharpening. They can send it back, and I'll give them a nice sharpen. Even one gentleman who purchased a knife, I made him a Damascus knife, and he was using it. And this pattern comes off because this is nothing more than an etch using acid to show the different layers of the steel that are embedded. And it can scratch, and he did scratch it, and it literally took me 10 minutes. He mailed it back to me. I reprofiled the blade edge, and I acid etched it again, and it was just as good as new. Okay, let's do the other side here. Yeah, you can really feel the microscopic pieces of metal that come off of this. You can sort of hear it too. You can definitely feel it. You just want to be extra careful at this stage, because I don't want to stroke the edge and damage the Damascus etch, because that would be painful. What would happen if I scuffed the Damascus? I would have to basically re-profile the bevel, dip it in hydrochloric acid, and then do the edge again. Because what happens with acid, of course, it'll eat away a portion of the blade edge, which is something we do not want to have happen. It's a wicked edge. It's written on the bottom. All right, you're not going to be able to see it, but this, because of the resolution, but there is basically as mirror edge as you can get with a Damascus steel. Very sharp. So let's, I really only have wax paper down here, so I have to just have to use that again. Yeah, you're right, it's a Tonto. Oh yeah, that's much better than before. So let's show you what that looks like. That's a pretty good edge. It's pretty damn sharp, I have to say. Yeah, much better. If you're on before, you can see the difference. This was a if you look here, this was about I think 800 grit sharpening status on the edge. You can see how rough it is. And then this is 1600. It's pretty damn good, I have to say. Oh, the belt grinder. That is an Ameribraid. I think they're out of California. It's awesome. A Tonto knife. A Tonto is just the shape. So there's a lot of different blade styles. There's a drop point. There's a camp knife. Bowie. They all have different profiles. This is a Tonto. There's also a reverse Tonto, which goes the other direction. and it's really made for slicing. So this is really good for like opening packages or opening letters or stuff like that. And it's small enough that you can you can bring it into like a city that has a like New York City is a little bit nuts with their knife laws. So like if you want to bring a folding knife in, it's got to have a detent or locking mechanism, which this one does. And you can't shake it loose. I've known people to carry knives in the city, and if they're showing a knife in their pants pocket, a cop will pull them over. Walking, commuting, and a shop tour. I just did one like 5 minutes ago. Let me do this. Let me undo this. I want to grab my stropping disc, stropping, and then I'll do a knife tour. So this is basic. This is a stropping leather. There's suede on one side, and then what I'll do is I'll get some green compound. Yeah, someone asked about sharpening stones last time. These are my wet stones here. They're dirty right now, but I don't really use the wet stones anymore. So this is just green compound. And then you basically can be pretty liberal with this. And there's other types of compound here that I put on the buffing wheel, and you have to mark it green, or this one says black over here. Because you can't really mix the compounds together. You have a bunch of different compounds for where you are in your polish. And so I'm just going to someone asked about whetstones versus this Wicked Edge. The reason why I got this, I talked a little bit about it before, is just to keep my sharpening duties as dumbed down as possible. Like I can't make a mistake with the Wicked Edge. I basically write down all the Wicked Edge settings for each of the knives I make, and I just dial it in every time. And then what happens is my son can come down and do that without a lot of instruction. So it'll help me, teach others. Or at least give me a little bit more horsepower to churn out more knives, My favorite, interesting. Favorite knife to make. Okay. I have a couple of what was I going to say? I can make fixed blade knives all day long. I can make several a day, make them in a row, and I can heat treat them together in my oven, and then get them out the door with a Kydex sheath, and they'll be a great knife. And I customize the handles on request, or they can take one of my basic knives for under $100. And I like those because they're super easy. People love them. They're small. I make actually two sizes of my fixed blades, and I have a sheep's foot design and a drop point design. The sheep's foot is under 3 inches, so even with a sheath, you can pop it in your front pocket and you won't even know you have one. And then the larger one is about 8.5 inches total, and I make a drop point. It's on my website. You can PM me if you want my website. I don't want to broadcast that if you don't mind. Okay. That looks pretty, oh man, that looks awesome. That is fantastic. Yeah, thank you for that description. That's exactly right. Oh man, this is, you can't see it, but it's turning to be a nice mirror edge. Yeah, I love the sheaths with design. I have a, actually I can show you what that looks like. It's really small. I have a, well, it's a broken version I use for testing and whatnot. Yeah, I should have copies of my knives. I never keep, models of the knives I make, because I make them and then they're instantly gone. Someone buys them, or someone, I give it to as a friend as a gift. This knife here is a gift from my friend Jim out in California. Yeah, this is beautiful. Oh, detent. Great question. Yeah, I'll show you right now. Actually, I'll put it together. You can see it. See everything in action. So here are all the parts for my knife. As I mentioned before, I make everything from scratch, including the steel, but this time I used a Chad Nichols steel. This is Damascus, professionally made. And I bought a pretty large billet of this stuff earlier this year for special editions. And one billet of Chad Nichols is $375 for, 14 inches, something like that. And so I'll use that for special editions. And then, of course, I have to charge more. But if not, I'll do powder steel in a crucible and make a little tiny billet, and I'll hammer it out in the forge, or I'll just use 1095 from a good maker. So anyway, all right, let's put this together. Detent. This is the detent right here, that little ball. Okay, you're right. It keeps the knife in place when it's closed, so you can't shake it open. And the blade itself, you see a hole. That is where that little ball goes into. It's literally a round ceramic ball. It's a tiny bead that basically you drill a hole in the lock bar, and then you press fit it in just enough so that it clears the height of one washer. So it's basically to keep all the mechanics working in order. It should not be any higher than one washer that you have. This are phosphor bronze washers. And that'll keep everything straight inside, and it'll keep your knife closed properly, when everything is in place. So basically it sits like that. So this is a top folder or front folder. You'll see the jimping that you have here. This is for your opening it for the thumb, gives it some grip. I use a special file to make perfect lines in here, and then I'll dig into them to make an even jimping. All right, let's see if I can remember how this goes together. All right, first thing I got to do is I have to put the lock bar in place. So I take a tiny titanium screw, I put it in that hole, and I countersunk the hole so it's completely smooth on the top of the titanium liner. Here's the stop pin. Get that nice and tight. And I'll put this on this side here. This is the stainless steel pivot. It fits right neatly into that pocket. And then I have longer button head screws here. And then here's my back off standoff. Okay, so now I have one side just about done. The next step is I'm going to put the phosphor bronze washer right on there. And now the knife goes right on top. It fits right in there. What are the scales? No, yeah, it looks like wood, doesn't it? That's what everyone says. This is actually copper dust infused resin. So you can't see it on the camera, but in person there's like a 3D effect because the resin is somewhat clear, and there are layers of copper dust that give it that coloring. There's probably some dye in there too. And then I epoxied it to a thick, a piece of G10 to give it some rigidity. And then this is titanium, which gives the whole thing a nice firm feel in the hand. And again, so we're going to put the other washer over here. And then this piece goes on here. Okay. So let's put this I just used what I have, by the way. So I had these tiny titanium screws I used for an outside project. No one sees this. It could have been stainless. I just had them. And plus I want to get it out to the new owner so we can test it out before giving it to his wife. Although he might want to keep it himself, and I'll make another one. Yeah, I got oil. I'll do it at the end. In fact, I'm just doing this for show, really, because you guys have been hanging around so long and wanted to see it together. But yeah, I'll take it apart again, do comprehensive oil. But for the camera here, I just wanted to get it together and show you how everything fits up. And plus, I document everything. I take it all apart and take pictures of everything before I ship it. I'll go into why maybe some other time. So I don't use CNC. I don't have a mill. I will buy a mill probably next, because I know what a mill can do, how fast I can make a knife with a mill. So this is the fit product. The detent is holding it in there. That little bead is in its home, right? So you can't shake it out. It's in there. And then what you do is you flick it open like that. And that's how it looks together. And if, it's a small knife, fits in the hand. It's good for your pocket. It's good lockup. Flicks open with your thumb. Doesn't need bearings. There's the lockup. And stabbing people's on your end, man, not mine. And then you'll see that lockup. That's really the lockup. It took me forever to get the lockup right, See how that lockup hits directly at the edge? It goes straight up. There's nothing over to the left. It's straight right up to the tang itself. So this is not going to move anywhere. And that's what I really wanted. There are some makers, they'll give you like their locking will go over the line, but I don't like that. I want the entire strength of the lock bar to support the knife. you know. Let's see. There you go. And then this is, I also make custom leather sheaths with every knife. So I made this. This is my leather supply case here. So I got all the leather tools. I have tons of different thicknesses of leather. So it starts out like this. And then I wet form it around a model of the knife, and then pops right in there. Pop in your pocket, comes out. All right, well that's it for today. I'm gonna go get some dinner. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you want to know my website, just send me a PM. Again, I kind of like to have these sessions just to talk about the craft and learn from others that are better than me, better than I am. And I've learned a lot from you guys today too. So thanks for joining, and thanks to the fellow knife makers for your support, and keep them sharp. Have a good night.